I put it in the chat. Yeah, hi. This is a nerd happy hour. Although I don't have a beer because it's 2 in the afternoon here.
I'm trying to conserve my beer.
It's cool.
I'm trying to ration it.
That's very important.
Liquid chocolate here, because why not?
I like it. Sam's like, I'm not hydrating. Fine.
This. It's empty. This has to last me the entire chat.
That's really funny.
Yeah,
but you might have to go take a break and get some water.
Yeah, we're okay with you standing up and getting water. That's like a policy here on this chat.
Non-stop chats.
Virtual sharing, because that's healthy now.
All right, why don't we dive into it? So I'm just going to start with like a quick introduction, and then we'll do a whip around with everyone so you can meet them. So hi, friends. My name's Kishore Hari, and welcome to our Nerd Happy Hour. What I was noticing is that there were so many science communicators that are working from home, that are working in isolation, and really we wanted to see this as an experiment. If we could get together and just talk, fundamentally for us to like build community amongst each other, but also see what people are curious about and maybe share some stories that are really lifting us up or piquing our curiosity at this time. We know there's so many people that are at home right now, and we hope that this is a delightful distraction from what's going on. So if you have questions, you can ask us in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to them. But the format of this is we're going to do some introductions. We're going to talk about how we're sort of dealing with the current coronavirus outbreak, and then we're each going to share some interesting science stories that have caught our interest in recent times. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to everyone to introduce themselves. Let's start with my friend Trace.
Hi, I'm Trace Dominguez. You may recognize me from varying YouTube internets.
Or the YouTube channel we're on right now.
That you're watching. I have been doing SciComm for about, I guess, 10 years now. And I started with the Discovery Channel and worked with Group 9 and the Science Channel and a variety of other people. And now I just kind of do it for myself. So you're here on my channel, and I cannot echo what Kishore said more strongly. It's like social distancing is one thing, but social isolation is something else entirely. And we don't want to be isolated. We just want to be a little further apart than we are normally. And that's where technology can really bring us together. So I really hope that people find this useful. Also, I do want to mention that we're monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions or something you want to talk about, outside of the current things going on in the world, like we're here for you. We've got people of all sorts of different backgrounds. So that's kind of the point. And hopefully we'll have some more people join us maybe later if their schedule works out. So cool. That's me.
Ray, I think you're up.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Reyhaneh. I'm going to do my thing, which is Ray, like Ray from Star Wars, and then Han, like Han from Star Wars, and then Reyhaneh. But I go by Reyhaneh Maktoufi, and I just recently defended my dissertation, PhD, so yay. I studied media technology and society, and I did my research on science, communication, and curiosity. I worked at a planetarium for a while, and before that, I used to do more health communication and health psychology work for different nonprofits. Now I'm working at WGBH Nova as a Rita Allen Foundation Civic Science Fellow. So I basically study science communication and see what are the best practices in media as it relates to science communication and misinformation. I also do some science doodling and some art stuff.
And Ray, you also were a producer at Story Collider, right?
Yes, yeah, I was a producer. Mostly in Chicago. Now I moved to Boston.
Cool.
Nice. I guess that leaves me. My name is Samantha Yammine. I mostly go by Science.Sam on the internet. I finished my PhD last year. I think my thesis is like right behind me. And that was all about how stem cells help to build and maintain our brains. And now I'm a full-time science communicator doing stuff on my own. So every day kind of looks different. But for me, working from home is kind of normal. So except now I have someone else who's around the house as well. But yeah, I'm excited to chat with everyone about if there are fears about COVID-19 and all that. We can chat about it because I've been following it closely. But I'm also just excited to talk about other science that hasn't stopped during this time.
I just want to follow up. Your Instagram stories about COVID-19 have been wonderful. So
Oh,
if you haven't checked them out, go check them out.
I just had to do a little correction from something I posted yesterday. So it's interesting how quickly information's changing and evolving, and people are giving insights and you're realizing, oh, okay, that's something I missed. So it's a really interesting time as a communicator because things change.
I have to ask on that same note, there was one Instagram story you did where it felt like you were in like the bathroom of a club, like showing how to like wash hands or something.
That was here. I think I had come home. So I had been out. Where was I? Oh, it was last Friday. I was watching Drag Race. I usually go to a Drag Race viewing party every week. So I'd come home pretty tipsy because it was like, it was a fun night. Then I did a washing my hands video in my home bathroom, and I said, if I can do it tipsy, you can do it sober.
That was awesome. That was like one of the most entertaining hand washing videos you'll see.
I'd love to do more drunk science, Sam.
Oh man, drunk science, like drunk history, that could be a really fun.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
I mean, there is Sadie PH Drinking. She interviews she interviewed me too. And it was funny because she makes like the weirdest, funniest drinks and then gets people drunk and asks them questions about science. And it's the best thing ever. And she has a dog, and the dog is there sometimes, and it's just like the best kind of.
Like it's bad. I get very chatty, so that would not be good. I should not do that.
So I want to ask, how are people handling the current situation? Are you working from home? Are you sort of social distancing right now? How is that working out for you?
Me?
Yeah, just anyone.
Sorry, I was tweeting. I was tweeting about our live stream. I've been working from home now for 18 months. Since I quit my job. But my fiance is now working from home also, and that makes for a different dynamic for sure.
That is my current situation too. There's now an extra body around.
Like, whereas before I could just do whatever I wanted and be like, I'm gonna have a nap in the middle of the day. Now I'm like, oh, I feel that social pressure to keep working, I guess, on stuff. But she's in the other room, she works for Twitter. So their whole workforce is working remotely at this point. And it's not forced. It's more if you've been traveling or, if you feel uncomfortable coming into the office, they're giving them that option, which I think is really cool. As a solo employee of my own business, I don't have as much to worry about.
Yeah.
In that respect.
Yeah. The last few weeks I've been like more at home just because I feel like my kind of work time is ramping up. So this is all the pre-time where I'm like researching and writing stuff. So I've been home the last few weeks. However, I had 2 events earlier this week where I was kind of like in a crowd kind of thing. One of them was my own event. And at that point, it didn't make sense to cancel. So besides those 2 events, now I'm going to be doing more social distancing and really trying to myself like assess like how do I feel. Like even today I actually don't feel 100%, so I'm just thinking maybe tomorrow I'll have a family get together, maybe I shouldn't go. Let's keep monitoring. And I'm just trying to encourage my friends and family to also make it a decision point, like have I been in contact with anyone who might be sick, have I traveled anywhere, like just to make it a conversation, because I think people are going to either extreme, and one day might be different than the next depending how you're feeling and what's happened. So yeah.
And just how are those conversations? How do they go with your family? Are they pretty receptive to it?
Yeah, my family is like on the overly cautious. It's like we've been we've been paranoid since November with the flu. So this is kind of normal for us. And I have a niece, and I like to see her as often as possible. But if I even have like the tiniest of scratch in my throat, I'm like, I can't see her. So it's kind of not new for us, but my partner and his family is like a little more chill. So I find I'm kind of just being like, but wait.
And how about you, Ray?
So for me, it was a little hard because I just moved to Nova and I was like looking forward to spending more time and getting to know people. And it has been a month since I've been there, and everyone is great. And I got to spend a lot of time with everyone. And I was kind of like, no, you have to like talk to people online. Yeah, I have to like figure out how to start having conversations online and keep the gatherings and keep the talking and everything going and getting to know people better online. I also just wanted to get to know like Boston more. Like I went to the Museum of Fine Arts last week, and they were like, oh, you can use your ticket in 10 days and come back. And I was like, yes, I'm gonna come back. And until a few days ago, I was like, I still kind of want to come back. I'll make sure to be very like careful. And then a few days ago, I was like, okay, no, I'm just gonna decide not to go. But I also, I kind of like need those times to like go out. Like today I went out, got a cup of coffee because I was like, I can't, like I need to go out, have my walk. Yeah, it's just a little bit of like the paranoia is also like a lot of my friends and family is in Iran and some of them are in Germany. So like in Iran, you get like a lot of the news and like that makes you like more nervous, and you have to be like, it's okay to go for a walk. It's okay to go get yourself a cup of coffee and take care of yourself.
That's so important.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, I think I've heard a lot of people interpret social distancing as I need to stay inside, which is like which is just not what it means at all. Obviously, if you're sick, you should stay inside and take care of yourself first and foremost. But I've been using this time to go on walks, and I live in San Francisco, and I've just become a tourist in my own town. And because there's less people out and about, I've gone to Twin Peaks, which is the hill in the middle of the city, at sunset. And you know, I'm still pretty far apart from people, but like I'm enjoying the view. I walked across the Golden Gate Bridge. Like this is like I'm using the moment to go enjoy the outdoors and do it responsibly, because I find my personal well-being is so lifted up by just going outside and like taking some time for myself. And in this time when we're all working virtually and staring at screens all day, I find it like grounding in order to just be able to even focus on the work. And so I actually hope that we can start to get across this interpretation of social distancing isn't like the extremes, like Sam said. It isn't either I say I wave it off and I go to the concert with 10,000 people, or I just stay inside. There's like a really happy medium that's just responsible here, because we're humans. We can't stop being humans all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I just tweeted out a chart that I thought was pretty helpful. It's from the Government of Canada's website. Represent as the only Canadian on the stream. Yeah, and it's pretty helpful because it kind of shows you like what level of like social distancing is an umbrella term for many different behaviors depending on your situation. And so this chart kind of shows you like what form and level of social distancing should you do based on how you're feeling and your exposure risk. And I think that's important. Like if you haven't been exposed to anyone and you feel great and you have no reason to think that you're at risk and you want to hang out with a friend, that's not the worst idea if they're in the same situation. Yeah, and we should still support local businesses. Like we can't have our whole cities collapse, you know.
That's I saw in Italy. There was a video circulating of this man that made a 6-foot diameter disc that he wore as like cosplay, like around his waist, so that like wherever he walked, he had 6-foot separation because it was like a physical barrier. And it was the most inventive form of cosplay I think I've ever seen, because it was scientifically valid cosplay.
I'm kind of into that. I like a little bit of a bubble. I'm into that.
Oh, that's hard for me. Like, hi everyone, let's just hug everyone and just it's a struggle.
Where are all of you going for information at this time? because it feels like when I go on the internet, sometimes it feels like there's 1,000 voices screaming at me all at once, and that's up from how it usually is, where it's only 500 voices screaming at me all at once.
I actually check a lot of SAM stuff because I know like your references are like CDC and WHO and you know your stuff and everything. So actually I check out a lot of like SAM stuff, Susanna Harris, sometimes like she had like some YouTube stuff that she's interviewing different people. So a lot of it is like, I got lucky to have a lot of science communicator friends on my feeds that I follow and I trust. And I know a lot of the references are mainly like the CDC and WHO. So that's actually my main source of information.
Yeah, I'm following the public health organizations. I'm still checking CDC, but I'm also checking our Canadian resources because we have them reporting frequently at the city, provincial, and federal level. So I'm checking those. Sorry, saliva. But
I just want to say on the record, it's okay to cough.
It is. And to sniff. It's okay to sniff. It's okay to sneeze. Let's not criminalize it.
I guess in this situation, we're fine. It's okay. But in person, I do feel like I need to let people know, like, this is an isolated event. Don't gotta be scared. Anyways, so in addition to those public health organizations, I also have some really key journalists and scientists who I've been following who've been phenomenal. So I would really, really recommend Kai Kupferschmidt. I think he's like Kakape on Twitter. Oh, he is doing an amazing job. He's a molecular biologist, now science journalist, mostly writing for Science magazine and doing daily update reports, lots and lots of writing, phenomenal. Trevor Bedford, who's a scientist at the Fred Hutchinson Institute, and I think in Washington State. He's the one, his lab is behind nextstrain.org, and they're doing amazing. Like today, he just did a whole amazing Twitter thread about how Ohio is saying that there's going to be 100,000 cases, like it's kind of uncalled for. And he's using all of the genomic data, and they're actively sequencing and analyzing all of this new genomic data. So that's in real time, and it's open access, and it's beautifully visualized. So he's my other source. And then I've always loved following Julia Belluz of Vox. She's at Julia of Toronto. Now I don't even know where she lives, somewhere in Europe, I think. she was in Boston at one point. Anyways, I don't know. It's not relevant for me to know where she lives, but she's doing a great job with those updates as well. So I think those three, in addition to my science communicator friends. Trace, your mask video was amazing.
Yeah.
So
Kenneth, yeah, he also had a really fun mask video.
Yeah.
I want to follow on what you just said, Sam. So Trevor Bedford also blogs about his findings, like with NextStrain and stuff.
Yeah.
And he wrote one of the most beautiful, probably informational pieces about how the Wuhan case came to Seattle, what they knew about it, how it spread, how they looked at the mutations in the virus and how it spread. And it's written in the most like sort of plain language you can imagine. So if you're really interested in sort of that sort of deep dive, I think Trevor is going to become one of these, as we look back, one of the kind of heroes of the moment.
Absolutely.
And with regards to Julia, she did this interview with Bruce Aylward from WHO, who led the team that went into China.
He's phenomenal.
And it was one of the most like moving and interesting pieces that I've seen yet, because Bruce really started to blow apart this narrative that had started to emerge about what China did and didn't do, and started to put a lot more like context about what we're up against from this like first person perspective of being on the ground there. And Julia's interview was sort of top notch.
I didn't see that, but his press conference when he came back from the mission, I'm pretty sure he got off a plane after a 2-week mission that he was in charge of, got off a plane and did a 2-hour press conference where the majority of that was him just giving information, literally sharing graphs on a piece of paper and pointing. Like that was one of the best press conferences I've like ever seen.
So normally, as somebody that works in science communication, I don't recommend holding graphs next to you as you talk. But in this case, I think we are making the exception.
Yeah.
It was so good.
How about you, Trace?
I've been going to the same places as Sam, but I'm also trying to mostly like elevate people like Sam and other people we've mentioned, like retweeting people that are spending more time looking at it than I am. And I think that's the hard part about stuff like this. I don't know who listens to On the Media out there, but like On the Media podcast has some really good rules that we used to follow when Twitter was a lot smaller about like breaking news and crazy events. And that is, don't retweet people that don't know what they're talking about, and like make sure you slow things down and think about it before you start spreading rumors. And we can all be guilty of retweeting something and like then later it finds out that that's not entirely accurate. And like Sam was saying earlier to us, that she had to make a correction on her Insta story, and it's like, that's okay, we're all humans. But like that's where I put my faith in people that I already know and organizations that I already know, so that I can kind of elevate that message that I trust, as opposed to trying to like, I did my own research and I went on Reddit and now I should start tweeting like, and like doing all sorts of stuff because I'm an expert and I've been reading about it for an hour. And it's just like, that can be really hard. It's a really hard thing to fight. You're like, oh, I found this cool thing and nobody's talking about it. And it's like, well, there might be a reason no one's talking about it, because it's not real. Like there also could be a scoop there. Like both are possible. It's just more likely that it's the former.
I try to be so careful about who and what I retweet. And so now, especially if I find like even a lot of scientists are just so excited to have a hot take about this situation because they, and like whatever, sometimes they're important and sometimes I think it's just people trying to capitalize on being heard. And I'm just being really careful to like, before I retweet a hot take, no matter who it's by, just kind of checking what else is in their feed and do they have a source somewhere? Like, do they seem reasonable? Because you never know, like one little tweet might seem okay and now you're giving platform to someone who might otherwise go rogue. So just like, I try to always be conscious of my social capital online because that's how misinformation spreads.
And I want to come back to misinformation. I just want to say like a month ago when I started really thinking about this, like in mid-January, I was like reading every preprint that was coming out. I was just sort of fascinated by what was going on because we had been hearing warnings going back a decade that these kind of bat reservoir type coronaviruses were going to spread and that they pose an imminent danger. And so I was like fascinated and I ate up every piece of information. But over the past couple of weeks, I've just noted personally, I kind of know what I need to know from like a high level, and I'm starting to slow my information gathering sort of muscle right now because I can see like how that's impacting me personally. Like there was a time this week, it's weird to say, but I was just like crying because I saw some of the projections that were coming out of what's like possible here. And I don't think we need to, just for me personally, I don't need to know the latest development every 30 minutes from these. So I'm actually trying to throttle it down now and focus on more like the human aspect of this. And just as the Wellcome Trust tweeted out just a few minutes ago, stay safe and be respectful to each other. I feel like that's going to be my big motto going forward. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about sort of misinformation or that entire ecosystem. And Ray, I know like you've been a SciComm researcher, you've kind of looked into this. How big of it, like, what's your sort of take on the landscape of information right now?
Well, to be honest, I think there's at this point so many sources, and it's a little concerning that a big part of all of that is who we trust with our resources and who is giving out all the information. And there's like, for example, tweets going around from people that seem very credible. They might have a doctor next to their name, and the information that they might be spreading might not be exactly accurate. And when you see certain like signs like, oh, there's a doctor behind their name, so that means I can trust them. Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Ollie's here.
I made it.
So Ray, just pause for a second. Sure. Ollie, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us, where you are? You're showing us like around your room.
I am. My name is Mattu. I am a clinical psychologist. I have a YouTube channel called The Psych Show, where I make psychology fun and easy to understand. And I did the very stressful thing of flying. I just took a flight. I am in Los Angeles. It was one of the most stressful flights I've ever taken.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm hanging out with you nerds and everyone else. Hi. So happy to see your lovely faces.
I'm supposed to be on a flight right now.
Ray, we'll come back to like the information ecosystem in a second,
Sure.
but I want to talk about the stressful flight. Ali, like, talk to me about going through the airport right now and what it felt like.
Yeah.
It was stressful. Like, look, my job is to help people with their anxiety. That's what I do. But just a few days ago, I heard that a few of the TSA agents at the airport I just left from did have coronavirus.
Oh.
And so, there's a level of vigilance that I was going into the situation with, because I'm honestly not too worried about my own health. Or my daughter's health or my wife's health, but we have a lot of older family, and I have an immune compromised cousin. And so I really don't want to be a carrier for anyone. So for me, it was being very vigilant, going through airport security, being very cautious of my hands, washing my hands. I've been doing Space the Final Frontier for my 25-second hand wash routine. So that helps. So it's just, it's really stressful, as you can see from my shirt.
You're very on brand today.
I'm on brand. Yeah. It's stressful to be that cautious for that long, and also on the flight, wiping things down. Oh my goodness, I'm not the person who does this, but it's worth it to be here in this beautiful city and to be looking at all you nerds.
I'm going to come back to coping, because I think we should talk about coping, especially with Ali here, who studied anxiety. But I want to circle back.
You want me to help? Okay.
Yeah, I want you to help me. I want to come back to what we were talking about with Ray, which was this whole information ecosystem. You're talking about how there's so many sources out there. And so, go back to talking about your thinking about this.
Yeah, so something that I'm just like mostly worried about are who are the sources that we trust and what are the signals we're getting from them of like, oh, this is a person that I trust. This is a person that seems very like warm and friendly and I understand what they're saying. So maybe what they're saying is correct or not. And just at this point, I feel like the anxiety is so high that like any kind of information we're getting, we're like consuming, and we're like, well, even if it might not be real, it's something that I could do, whether it's working or not. But like on a positive note, Sam, do you want to say something?
No, I was agreeing. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Like on the positive note, my dad messaged me yesterday and said, I finally realized what you're studying and why it's so important. And I was like, yay, because misinformation. And I think there's so many examples out there. And I think the same reason when something becomes like very big and we keep talking about it, people might become more curious about it. I think the science of science communication and the science of misinformation is as much a science as climate changes, as environmental sciences, as psychology is, as everything is, but we don't talk about it as a science of science communication as much, right? There's like not documentaries about it or, like a Nat Geo thing about it, right? So that might be an interesting thing to like be like, okay, now this is a science we can talk more about. The big picture science, for example, the podcast had a whole episode on like misinformation and coronavirus, how we have this different emotions from like, fear and how that gets us to like make different decisions and behave differently. So I think this is something to think about and thinking of like how people are tuning into misinformation in SciComm and how we can talk more about how we can talk about different topics and be more empathetic and understand where people are coming from and all the different concepts and psychology that could be helpful.
So how are other people thinking about misinformation or just like the information ecosystem that exists right now?
Misinformation is so tough. I always thought it would be really neat to study media critique and criticism. That was something that like, if I hadn't gone into SciComm, I really like thought about going to get more schooling in. And unfortunately, with misinformation, sometimes it doesn't look like misinformation, and you don't know that it's misinformation until months or years later. I think we can all, like you were saying earlier, Kishore, we all, I think, are pretty well aware at this point. We have this like baseline level of knowledge. We all should be washing our hands. We all know to try not to touch our faces. We all know to not shame people for sneezing, and like to try not to like get near people if we can, and don't shake hands. I personally saw a gif of people like hitting feet together. They like stuck their foot out and like, what up? And I was like,
no, I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you the way to go: live long and prosper.
Yes.
Look at that message.
Yes.
The message is beautiful. It's practicing all the habits we need.
But like
Yes.
when it comes to misinformation, we sort of mentioned it. I mentioned it earlier. It's like the easiest way is to use sources that are trustworthy, and even they can spread misinformation from time to time. But at least if we're all going to the same source, when they fix that misinformation, it's fixed for everyone, and it doesn't have to take as long to disseminate through the rumor mill.
The challenge that, yeah, I agree with you. Like, that's where our job becomes amplifying important sources, and people that we know, people and organizations that we know will make corrections when needed. The troubling thing I've seen this week, spending a lot of time on social media, are people who will like even say the right things, but the way they say it is a little misleading. And so now it's becoming so much more about not just about what we say, but how we say it. So someone was saying, oh, you know, this in a new preprint, blah, blah, blah. And so they had done the disclaimer, it's a preprint. Well, never mind the fact that preprint is jargon. Not everyone knows that that means it's not peer reviewed and that it's new. But the whole entire post was like red and with like alert emojis. And so now I'm having an emotional reaction. And how much am I really taking in what you said? People are reading more in between the lines than they're reading every line closely, because it's an emotional situation. Our amygdalas are like on fire. And so I think for me right now, trying to be really mindful how I communicate to the masses or one-on-one with friends is about how am I saying things? Am I just being like, something new just happened. Did you know this? Did you wash your hands? It's more being like, hey, how are you doing today? I read something interesting. Do you want to talk about it? And like really making sure people are feeling okay, because the emotional triggers are strong, and that's its own form of misinformation.
It's so hard right now with how much uncertainty we have. You know, we're really not wired to be able to deal with this much uncertainty. And that's where I also think misinformation, it can fill in the gaps of knowledge with compelling stories. While the story of science and of medicine is there's a lot we don't know. We haven't seen this before. We don't know what the course of it is going to be. That's not a very compelling explanation. And so that's why our jobs become so important, to help people to be able to deal with this uncertainty, to know what's known, and to be able to navigate to the right sources, because the misinformation can so fill in the gaps and take hold there at a time when people want more certainty, but just can't find it.
Yeah, I was talking to a public health communication researcher, and she studies information during times of crisis. And one of the things she said is like, you know, we have been using labels like misinformation, disinformation. So we got to take a step back from those labels, because we don't want people to feel bad about looking for information now, because that's a natural thing to do. And oftentimes they're going to find information that's either maybe a little hyperbolic or maybe not entirely accurate. That's also going to happen. And so it's important for, I think, scientists and science communicators to really have a sense of like warmth and empathy for people. This isn't about saying that the information you got is wrong, but just developing a level of understanding, because I truly believe that 99.99% of people are just trying to make decisions the best they can in their life. And the more that we can be a resource for that going forward and input as Sam said, how are you doing in this period, the more effective we're going to be, not just now, but for decades following on from this, because we're going to get through this, but there's going to be the next thing and the next thing after that. The value that we can generate as a community right now could last generations if we're willing to have some tougher conversations. So at least for me, I'm putting aside the label misinformation right now because I want people to that I interact with to understand that I know this is a just incredible time. So one last question, and I want to flip the script here before we get into some other topics. When you're washing hands, what song are you singing? Because we already heard Space the Final Frontier. I think this is an important question that we need to hear directly from science communicators. What is your song?
Yes.
I have really bad attention span, so I start like singing in Farsi, Tavallo, Tavallo, which is happy birthday to you. Tavallo, and then I'm like, oh, about that. And then I start thinking about something else and it goes on. I'm like, how many seconds? Have I been washing enough or not? And I'm like, I think I've been thinking enough to get to 20 seconds now.
I feel like I'm constantly singing, and ironically, when I'm washing my hands, I'm not, because I'm just thinking of the steps. It's really the steps that matter more than I just did them all. There you go. It's the steps that matter more than the time, but like if we're doing those steps, you reach the time. So I think, yeah, I just like dance with no music. How sad.
Trace, how about you?
I do Happy Birthday, but I've been trying other songs. You've Got a Friend in Me from Toy Story works really well.
Oh, so good. Oh, yeah.
And you end, and when you do all the bits, it ends with the second time he says, or the third time he says, because you've got a friend in me, which is great. It was great.
I know I just said like warmth and competence, but there's one thing that I don't feel warm and competence to, which is like germs on my hands. So I go with Rage Against the Machine. It's a little aggressive, but I feel like that's appropriate right now.
Wait,
So,
what Rage song?
I vacillated. I had Bulls on Parade for a little while. I went with Freedom for a little bit, but it's really Killing in the Name of. And I try to add like Killing in the Name of Hygiene.
It's so nerdy, but I love it.
So let's actually talk about something non-COVID related for just a couple minutes. Just are there science things, science stories, science ideas that you're that you've come up against that have just been really interesting to you? And we can do this like in a quick, like we'll go around like 5 minutes each, and we'll whip around for the last half of this conversation. Trace, do you want to start?
I've only been reading about COVID. Someone else has.
Well, we'll pick something unique in COVID that maybe other people haven't heard about.
You want something unique?
Well, not unique.
Yeah, you do you.
Trace, I want you to get up on this hill that you've been on for years now.
My anti-daylight savings hill?
Yes. Because we just passed daylight savings. It's time.
We did. Is everybody sleepy? I'm still sleepy.
It's the worst.
I hate the switch. I did a video not long. Kishore's trying to make me talk about this video that was very divisive on my channel. And actually within the science community as well, there are a lot of like politicians and states. Let me start at the beginning. Daylight saving is stupid. We shouldn't do it. I am pro standard time. I am pro daylight saving forever, whichever one you want to do. Some scientists have found that people who live out of sync with the sun clock can cause more chronic issues. So I'm not here to determine which one is the correct one, but I think the switching part is the worst part. So I did a video maybe, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago, that talked a little bit about it. And like the pros of daylight savings time is you get longer, and I say savings because I'm from the Midwest. I'm sorry, we put S's on everything. It's Best Buys. It's not Best Buy. Like we put, that's what we do. Okay, so don't hit me or anything. So we get, longer evenings. You get more light at night. I like those kind of things, especially living in a northern environment. It was so nice in the summer to have light until 10 p.m. I know, Sam, you're in Toronto, so you probably had like in the evenings in the summer with daylight saving, it's light until like 9:30 or 10 at night, which is amazing. You're outside more, you spend more time doing things. There are also, cons are things like it doesn't actually make the day longer. It just shifts when we use the day. And because we're moving it out of sync with our body clocks and the sun, it can cause, like I said, all sorts of other issues. But what we do know is that the switch itself causes problems across the board in terms of sleep deprivation. Increases in things like strokes and heart attacks are a little debated because they're taking into account 26-hour days versus 23-hour days, things like that. But at the same time, it does seem to increase a variety of acute conditions when we switch. So let's just not. That's all I'm just saying. Let's just not switch.
A little treat when you fall back.
No, fall back. Time travel day, as I call it, based on the greatest episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete ever. Time travel day is great. You can fall back an hour. You get to do that whole hour again. That's awesome. But spring forward day is like really bad.
I didn't even notice it this year because I have a digital watch that just did it for me, and I only noticed when I checked my stove like halfway through the day, and I was like, oh damn, that's why I feel like crap.
Yeah. Do you guys hate daylight savings? Are you, well, by a show of hands, who is like pro daylight saving forever? Like spring forward, never fall back again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Spring forward, never fall back again.
I'm kind of
why, Trace, though?
mad about forever. Entertaining.
The reason I hate time changes is all the stuff Trace mentioned, and also you can't convince toddlers of why this is happening.
This is a unique problem that you're having right now in this group.
It's a really hard problem. My 2.5-year-old has been waking up like so much later and going to sleep later. It sucks. Or it's so hard. So yeah, I don't like it.
Well, I've been moving between Boston and Chicago for a while, and I keep changing. So if I have to go through it, I want everyone to go through it. It's just not a very lovely.
That's a
mindset,
different
but...
form of we're all in this together than I think most people think right now.
True. Yeah, so that's something that I've been looking at. I know that a number of states have passed laws, like California, we just passed a law, or passed, I guess, a ballot measure that said we would adopt permanent daylight saving, but we can't because the law in the United States says that you can either use daylight saving as indicated by Congress, this is the Uniform Time Act of like 1966 or something, or you can not use daylight saving. That's it. You can either use the one that we have, or you can not use it. There's no like make up your own. And so that means we can't adopt permanent daylight saving, but there are a number of states and groups that have opted out. But more states have passed the like opt into daylight saving forever, which I think is interesting. Like it seems people actually like that better. Again, there's a lot more that nuance to the discussion, but I think it's really neat to talk about. And it's something that everybody has an opinion on.
Unified Time Act sounds like the plot of an episode of Star Trek. I'm just putting that out there.
Nice. Sam, you want to talk about endorphins?
Yeah, cool. It's nothing new. Well, there's probably lots of new stuff in
It doesn't have to be new. It's just something you want to talk about.
Yeah, it's just something that I think it's something I posted about a while ago, but think about really often. And it's just why exercise makes us feel good. And I thought it might be extra relevant to people right now who are feeling like a little bit stifled or shut in. Try doing some form of activity that gets your heart rate up, because there is pretty good evidence out there that that good feeling, that runner's high, it's real. The surprising thing is that a lot of people will say it's endorphins. In fact, my favorite Elle Woods quote is, exercise makes you happy. Wait, exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make people happy. Happy people don't shoot their husbands. They just don't. From Legally Blonde.
The documentary Legally Blonde. It's a good documentary.
Yes. So we usually think of it as endorphins, and there's probably lots of endorphin signaling. In fact, like endorphins might even get released directly in your brain. And that could be some of the feel-good feeling. But a lot of endorphins, beta endorphins especially, like can't cross into the brain. So people are now thinking that a large feeling of a big part of that like good feeling you get from running, for example, is actually because of endocannabinoids like anandamide, which is my favorite molecule because it's such a beautiful word. So yeah, anandamide is an endocannabinoid, and that can get into the brain. And if you block these cannabinoid receptors, the things that this requires to signal, you don't get the same level of running high. And so I just think that's really beautiful. There are all these molecules floating around our body, making us feel good when we work out. We don't fully understand how they work, where they work, how it changes with different exercise, but we know that exercise is great and can make you feel good if you're feeling crappy right now. So think about it. Not that I've worked out at all this week, but you know.
That's a pretty positive message though.
Yeah.
Oh, and I like the idea that I mean, especially in science communication, we usually talk about jargon and language, but I never think about those scientific words as being beautiful. I love that reframe.
Well, because I think, I think anandamide comes from a Sanskrit word, ananda, which I forget what it's something like love of something. Hold on, let me look it up. Unless someone knows. Wait, something to do with joy and bliss or divine joy. That's what ananda means. So we just kind of took the word. So it's like a bliss or joy molecule. So it's beautiful. I love it.
Ray, anything you want to talk about?
So I've been thinking a lot recently about motivated reasoning, which is basically, I'm gonna do it with an example. So Kishore, I'm sorry that I'm gonna do this. Example.
I'm fine to be picked on.
Perfect. Okay, let's pretend that Kishore is my friend. No, Kishore, you're my friend. Okay, so I'm friends with Kishore, right? I'm like, Kishore is a great person. He's really nice. I really like him. And then what happens is that Kishore steals someone's pen. Right? So in my head, I'm like, and he's just so nice, and I like him, and I trusted him. But he just stole a pen, which is giving me some other information that is different to what I thought about Kishore, right? So my brain doesn't like that. Like my brain is like, this is painful, like kill me, I can't deal with this. So it needs to fix one of those like sources of information. Either I have to just change my mindset and be like, okay, Kishore is a horrible person, and all this time that I spent being Kishore's friend, I was actually friends with someone that is horrible, and now like all the friends that we know and everything. So it's just like so costly for me to change this mindset of like, well, maybe Kishore is not a good person, right? So what I do is I start motivated reasoning, which means I'm gonna say, well, maybe he didn't steal that pen. Maybe he just borrowed that pen. Maybe the person that told me that Kishore stole the pen is giving me fake news. Maybe that's not actually happening. Maybe Kishore really needed that pen and just really needed to write something that is very important and is going to save humanity with that written thing that is like totally worth it, right? So this is all different kind of like reasons that I come with, that I'm motivated to come with, because I want to like keep my mindset. And we do that like every time, all the time. And the reason why I like it, I feel like it's like Matrix. Because like, you know, like when you see it, then like you look around and then you see it everywhere. It's like the Matrix just like falling in, and you're like, oh shit, it's like everything is motivated reasoning. So like, you know,
I mean,
like
I will note that I did steal this pen from work. So
I knew it.
now I'm giving you confirmation bias.
Oh yeah, information that is confirming what I believe in.
Nerds. I love it.
Yeah, because like the other day I was like walking in the street and I saw something on the ground. It was just like this red kind of ball-shaped thing, and like I was walking past by it, and I thought, oh, while I passed it, I was like, maybe I should pick it up and throw it out because like someone could fall on it. And I kept walking because I just really wanted to get somewhere, and I was like, no, it's probably not round enough. No one's gonna fall on it. It was kind of in a corner. And I was like, oh, I'm like doing the motivated reasoning. So I like made myself go back and pick it up. And it's because like, I think we all do motivated reasoning. It's just very important to be like aware of it and constantly remind yourself that you're doing it all the time. Other people are doing it and it's natural, and it's not that people are like mean or horrible or anything. It's just what we do a lot of the times.
Oh, that's a great message for right now.
How?
I also
Awesome.
love that because I think some people in science or in any kind of STEM field kind of forget that they still fall, not victim, but we still do these things. No one is immune. I love that you said that.
Yeah.
I promise I'm not trying to just talk about Star Trek, but I've been thinking about motivated reasoning a lot in the context of Star Trek. Because one of the cool things I think that's come out of motivated reasoning is this idea that you want to keep your identity small. And that keeps you the most open-minded and the less likely to do some of these things in relation to your identities. Because I've been struggling with new versions of Star Trek and what this all means. So kind of like being aware of your identity and how we're all vulnerable to this stuff, I think is super helpful.
Our identity is Star Trek, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I struggle.
Is that anywhere close? No.
Yes, I love that shirt. I've seen that shirt before. I love it.
Yeah.
I worry about the cursed child, like with Harry Potter.
Oh yeah.
That's a great example.
But in fact, I'm right. Like it's not canon. Like it's not real. I'm like so far beyond motivated reasoning.
Now I'm like bracing for impact for the Potterheads to come in here.
No. I think the Potterheads, including myself, agree. It's canon.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Like we know that she made some mistakes. JK has not been doing a great job lately. Okay, so
Whoa.
She's had a rough year.
She has.
See, I think that's a really good example because I love Cursed Child, but I'm also critical of JK, but I don't consider myself a Potterhead. So for me, it's like, it's not a personal attack. I'm not really biased towards these things as much as someone who really loves Harry Potter might.
I have a follow-up question for Sam.
Yes.
How do you feel about the other movies, the Newt movies?
The Fantastic Beasts was amazing. I loved it. I think it was the best movie in the Harry Potter franchise because it was just so well done and beautiful. But then the next one, I was just like, I can't with all of these things. And it had a really bad plot and it was too much. But
I thought the first one really expanded the universe in a way. Like it took us to a new place that we'd never been before and saw like a whole
America.
Like a whole new continent, like a new world.
It was amazing. I loved it. And to be honest, I play Harry Potter for real, like at least once a month. I'm like really deep. So,
okay. So here's what we're gonna do. House call.
Oh.
It's so much more fun to guess.
Oh, okay. We can guess.
Wait, what?
Ali, you get to choose somebody to guess.
I think Trace is Ravenclaw.
Oh.
I think we're all Ravenclaws.
I can confirm that Trace is Ravenclaw because we know this we know our houses, and he's putting on his robe.
Ew.
I love that real-time peer review right there.
Okay, Trace, you got outed as Ravenclaw. You get to guess next.
I'm gonna guess that Ali is a Hufflepuff.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
And a proud Hufflepuff.
What? What'd you say?
And a proud Hufflepuff.
Good. You're loyal and true. You should be proud. Hufflepuff's awesome.
Yeah.
Ray, it's your turn. You get to choose between Sam or myself.
I would rather be in the Middle Earth world. I was a person that read 6 books, and like I was so angry that J.K. Rowling never said that she was influenced by the Lord of the Rings that I didn't read the last book. Like I was like I look back now, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Just read. I never read the last book.
Spoilers.
So I'm like, I always feel a little like, can I like be the person that is like, I'm gonna guess your houses and everything, and be like, you know, Sam, you're an elf. That's what I can say. You're a Lothlorien elf. Let's do that.
I would agree with that. I think that's a really good. She's definitely a Lothlorien elf.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with
Thank you.
that
Totally.
assertion.
Thank
So
you.
Ray is a Muggle, and not in a
Yes.
Or maybe she's a squib. So she's like really angry that other people can do magic.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, it's your turn. I guess you only have me.
Maybe you're a Griffin Puff.
No, I'm Ravenclaw. It's not that challenging. But my wife is a Slitherpuff, and she's very proud of being a
That's
Slitherpuff.
dope. That's basically like a lawful evil.
Yeah.
Oh, now we're in the D&D world. God,
Yeah.
you guys are the nerdiest. I love it.
We're going all over the place.
Yeah.
I actually don't really understand those categories very well, but I know that I'm apparently a lawful evil. So I just call everyone a lawful evil, like how I call everyone a Cancer.
So I would have guessed Gryffindor for you just right off the bat, because you were like courageous. You're always like out there on Instagram, and so I would have gone that. Your reaction tells me I should say Ravenclaw.
It depends how much I'm cheating when I take the quiz.
Well, that makes me even double that you're a Gryffindor, because the Ravenclaw wouldn't cheat, okay?
Yeah. I think
But a Slytherin would.
Yeah. I think I want to be Hufflepuff because they're the only house that isn't elitist. Every other house is like so rude.
Join us.
I want to be
really friendly.
But deep down, I'm a Ravenclaw Slytherin because I'm,
like the Slitherclaw. Nice.
Slitherclaw. Interesting.
We're about at time, and what I wanted to do before we do some plugs is say, well, first of all, I love this. Thank you all for like creating an hour of brightness in my life. I started this as an experiment with Trace, just to see if this would be fun. If the audience thinks this is fun, if you think this is fun, what I'd love to see this become is something that rotates personalities. There's so many incredible people doing SciComm around the world. There's an incredible diversity of people in different situations, and having this be like a regular thing, especially over the next few weeks when many around the world are working from home or are social distancing, I hope can bring some, like a little bit of joy, maybe a little bit of science, and a little bit of Middle Earth to your life. So if you enjoyed it, let us know. Give us some suggestions for people you would love to see, and we'll try to keep it going. What I thought we could do is plugs. All of you do amazing work.
Plug.
Tell people where they can find you.
Plug. Don't start with me, because you're on my YouTube channel. So
Literally on Trace's channel. This is
we're literally on my channel now.
Subscribe to Trace's channel. If you are not a subscriber to Una Dos of Trace, subscribe. He's got awesome videos like his studio tour and his video about face masks. It's a must watch. And I just love hearing Trace say, achoo. He says it in a very sweet, cute, and funny way. You got to subscribe to Una Dos of Trace.
That was the most Hufflepuff moment. I loved it.
Oh, love you, man.
All of my science communication right now is focused on Instagram, where you can find me at Science.Sam.
I'm also on Instagram and Twitter as the Cosmic Ray, but the Ray is REY.
And Ali, plug your channel.
Go to the Psych Show on YouTube, and you will find a video where I show you how to use behavioral psychology to no longer touch your face. Check it out. And I also talk about Star Trek.
Ooh, can I say I watched that video, and then while I was watching it, I kept just like touching my face a million times. Like, you need this so bad.
A lot of people were writing that in the comments. I was like, uh-oh.
No, I needed it. I needed it.
And just in case people are looking, I did update the section below the video. So all of the people's stuff should be in there. If it's wrong, people, please tell me.
And I know we didn't get a lot of listener questions. I promise, like, we will, if we keep doing this, we'll make more time for that so that this can be more interactive. But for now, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and find your joy. So live long and prosper.
And Middle Earth stuff.
Yes.
And Harry Potter forever. Potter.
Hanole. That's elfish.
You're so. I love it.
Remember Cedric. I don't know. Okay, bye.
Bye.
May the force be with you too.
Trace, can you stop the stream?